Hello, crypto friends. Hope you're doing well. We're going to look at a handful of names here: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, EOS, NEO, ZRX, BCHSV, BCHAC, ABC, DEFGHI, JK, LMNOP. So we got a bounce on the daily time frame on Bitcoin, and it's, again, we have to always zoom out perspective because I'm looking at it on the hourly and the 4 hour as the bulls are showing up this morning, and it's seeming like, wow, the bulls are finally here. And anytime you feel FOMO, just zoom out, because we look at this daily chart and we say, wow, this bounce is absolutely nothing at this point. Yes, the bulls have some opportunity for some short-term profit, but in terms of the bigger picture, this is doing nothing. So we're looking at a bounce right now. And again, as I keep saying, for me, the most important factor is the shift in trend on the daily time frame, turning those daily exponential resistances, the 12 and 26 period, into support. And of course, changing the weekly trend would be significant as well, but that's going to happen even further down the line. So at this point, it's a potential daily bear flag, and as long as the exponential resistance stands, that is a possibility. So we have similar bounces playing out where we had multiple inside bars and a bull break to test that exponential resistance on the last bounce. Here we have multiple, or I guess just one inside bar with the bull break. And here we are looking at these exponential resistances. So that exponential resistance at this point is in the mid to upper 3,700s. Tomorrow it'll be in the upper 3,000. It'll be right around 3,700. So again, that's what we're watching. And the last clear lower high for me on this daily time frame is 44.15. Anything under 44.15 is just a lower high. Some of the bullish action that we had yesterday, just to talk about differences in the exchanges, on Bitfinex, we had a significant little short squeeze that showed up, and it could just be, let's just look at it real quick. So we're going to look at Bitcoin here on Coinbase, and we can see the 4 hour time frame. I'm talking about this candlestick, and this candlestick did not break the previous candlestick. It was just a lower high at that point. And we look at Bitfinex, and we had that big upper wick. So a little bit of liquidation going on, perhaps some shorts being forced to cover. Either way, it did not last very long. And then we have those bots that are ready for arbitrage between exchanges when there is a discrepancy like that, fairly quickly even it out. So it's worth noting that that did happen, and there were some differences on the exchanges, but in the end, didn't really see a significant difference after that little event did occur. So here on Bitcoin, we have the 4 hour exponential resistance rejecting the price for 2 days, and now it's finally becoming support. We're looking for a bullish cross of these exponential moving averages. The bullish MACD cross has already followed through, and the key break was that level of 3,550. So the lower highs have been broken. We have the 4 hour low, high of the bounce, higher low, and a higher high. So this is the start of the trend change on the 4 hour time frame. Anything above 336, let's make that 3,368. Anything above that is a higher low, keeping the bulls in control. So obviously at this point, if we lose the 4 hour uptrend, it's a huge red flag for the short-term bulls. The short-term bulls now have control of the hourly and the 4 hour trend. The midterm bears still have control of the daily and the weekly time frame. So that's where we're set apart right now, and the bulls obviously want to continue this uptrend on the 4 hour time frame to try and change the daily trend, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to take a while for that to play out. So at this point, the 4 hour uptrend is the most important to be watching, and anything above 3,368 keeps that uptrend intact. The next resistance level after the top of this move of 35.79 has us looking up at 38.49 as the next clear resistance level that the bulls have their sights set on, but the daily exponential resistance is going to be in play before we get up to that level. So short-term bulls have something to cling on to for hope. And let's look back at the last bounce attempt on the daily time frame and what that looked like on the 4 hour chart. When did that momentum shift? We had our low, high of the bounce, higher low, the bull break occurred, higher lows and higher highs continued, and losing the 4 hour uptrend was the mark for the bears. So again, that 4 hour uptrend is the most important thing for me over the next couple of days to be watching who keeps control. The shorts are covering, 2 days of covering, and we have pulled back over 10%. If I were a bull, I would want to see those shorts increasing because that means there's going to be continued pressure on those shorts. There's more of a, imagine it like a soda can, and you're shaking it up, and the more shorts are building while that's happening, while the price is going up, the more potential there is for that can to open up and see that short squeeze action. But as the shorts are covering, as that's going on, it's almost like you're shaking it up, but there's a little bit of a crack already in that can, so it's not able to build up that pressure against the shorts. So personally, I would rather see the shorts covering, or I should say I'd rather see them building to know the potential of the short squeeze is there. The fact that we are seeing covering and a drop in shorts of 10% makes it less likely for a short squeeze to play out. Ethereum on the daily time frame, still inside bars. It has not broken bullish yet. We had some more bullish action comparatively for ETH compared to BTC a couple days ago, and now it's evening out as it's lagging behind a little bit. So the inside bar, 97.52, and we've gotten up to 96.60 today. So second daily inside bar in a row, still watching the exponential resistance, which hasn't even been tested. Look at the last time we've touched that exponential resistance. It hasn't happened since we had the bear break over $200. So we've dropped 50% without even touching that exponential resistance, and that's what we're keeping an eye on. The ETH shorts are still high. Let's just check in and see what we've got for Bitfinex. And again, keeping in mind that when we do look at these shorts, the short data, it is only on one exchange, but it does give us a general idea that we can apply some assumptions to the market as a whole, but could very easily be a different, bigger picture. We only have one little clue, one little piece of the puzzle as far as shorts go with that one exchange of information. So looking at the shorts here on ETH, the daily time frame, still all-time highs through the roof. We have started to see some covering, but it's not entirely significant. It's just gone from 442,000 down to 439,000. Actually 403,000. So a little bit of covering going there as well, but obviously still very high. There's more pressure for a short squeeze on ETH than there is on BTC, because those shorts are so much more significant than they have ever been before. So Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame, we don't have the break of resistance yet, 97.52. That's the level to be watching. The 4-hour higher lows are marked here. Our most recent higher low is 88.15. Anything above 88.15 keeps the bulls in full control of this 4-hour uptrend, but we still need a break of resistance for the bulls to have any confidence. 97.52, 100 psychological, and then 102.84 are the next couple of levels, and we'll see if the bulls can see continuation. One thing I want to point out, going back to Bitcoin, I was watching this move play out this morning, and the bulls are still at it. They're testing up their resistance right now. And what I'm watching right now is the hourly RSI. So the hourly chart was too extended on this break of 35.50 for me to be interested in a bullish entry. We had already seen 5 green hours in a row. And what stands out to me is the RSI. Look at the hourly RSI since the break of 6,000 has occurred. And the hourly RSI has not done anything but just spike above 70 a few times and has not been able to sustain above that mark. So here we are with the hourly RSI at 70. So we're either going to see a spike and consolidation at that 70 level, or we're going to see a shift in sentiment and the RSI to stay above 70 more prolonged. That would be notable if that were to happen, but looking back at recent history, the more likely scenario is that we do need some consolidation to cool off that RSI. So that is something that I looked at, when this move was going forward, and it was the hourly chart that kept me from feeling any FOMO and trying to enter into the bullish position on that resistance break. And also the 15-minute RSI was a bit high, and we got a bull flag and continuation, but again, that hourly RSI is keeping me from the FOMO. So Litecoin on the daily time frame, also still looking up at some resistance at 2670 and then the exponential moving average. We look at the 4-hour time frame, it's all about 2670. Our last higher low was at 2295. So we're due for another 4-hour higher low. This entire move in the last day has not seen 4-hour consolidation. So nice little double bottom down there, 2301 and 2295 before the bulls showed up, but now it's all about 2670, and if we cannot break 2670 and pull back, we just have an equilibrium drawing out on the 4-hour time frame, and that's the same case for Ethereum as well. If we don't break this resistance, we have a bit of a 4-hour equilibrium, whereas Bitcoin has already broken resistance. Ethereum on the daily, still looking up at that resistance from yesterday. We had a big upper wick, so I'm noting the level before that big upper wick, which still hasn't been broken, of 32.8, and then we would be looking up to 34 even 34078 as the next resistance level. The last 4-hour high or low is 30476. So again, on every individual name, the most important thing for me tonight and into tomorrow is, can the bulls keep the 4-hour uptrend in their favor as we continue to look at resistance levels? And if the bulls continue this move, daily exponential resistance tests will be coming early this coming week, potentially tomorrow on Monday. So that's what we're keeping an eye on for all these individual names. And again, the only name so far out of everybody that we looked at that has broken to higher highs is Bitcoin at this point. These other names lagging behind a little bit. EOS USD daily time frame absolutely looks like a bear flag. Look at the volume. Increasing bear volume, decreasing bull volume. Of course, we still have a ways to go today, but it's a bear flag setup right now, and anything under 308 essentially is a lower high on the daily. Exponential resistance hasn't been tested since the clear bear break. The 4-hour time frame, higher lows are the must hold, and that's 1775 as the must hold level. We did break to a higher high over 199, so that's standing out as in similarity with Bitcoin having broken its resistance. And the next level of resistance is going to be up in the 226, 227 range on this little weak bounce attempt back on December 5th. So bulls showing up, the volume clearly favoring the bulls over the last, pretty much since the bottom. Look at the bull volume on the bottom, very low bear volume consolidation, bull volume, bear volume. So this is ideal volume in terms of seeing a bounce play out, but the bulls still have a lot of work to do. Again, the daily time frame is not changing this trend anytime soon. We could see another 40% move and still just set a daily lower high. So EOS is one of those names that's been getting absolutely crushed with no support on the weekly time frame. So keeping in mind that it's more of a bearish play, in my opinion, to be looking for a bearish entry on a lower high on the daily time frame being set. But right now, the 4-hour uptrend is what to be watching to see if the bulls can keep control and keep that daily bounce going. NEO USD on the daily chart, up testing that resistance right now, liking it on the 4-hour for clarity, and we actually did just break 671. The last higher low on the 4-hour time frame, we did establish a little support there at 612. So 612 is the most important short-term level for the bulls to hold, and now resistance is up at 735, the next little resistance from the way down. Again, these exponential moving averages are starting to make their way towards a cross, and we're watching the daily exponential resistance after that, which is approaching and is going to be tested either today or tomorrow, it does appear. So the 4-hour uptrend is the most important, and we have broken bullish. So we can section off these names, the names that have broken the 4-hour to a higher high, like NEO, like EOS, like Bitcoin, and names that have not, like everybody else that we've looked at so far. Checking in on ZRX. So ZRX USD on the daily, exponential resistance. We look at the 4-hour, have not broken to a higher high yet. The most important 4-hour support short term is 316. And there's our resistance of 354. Anything under that's just a lower high, and we would look for a tightening range if we cannot break that level. If we do break it, the daily exponential resistance is right there. Anything on the daily under 47 is just a lower high. So again, we're just looking for daily charts to set lower highs on all of these names, and we are looking for the lower high to be set once the 4-hour uptrend is lost. That's why that 4-hour uptrend is so important to me, because the daily lower high on this bounce has not been set as long as that 4-hour uptrend is intact. BCH SV, so a tightening range here. We have our low of the pullback, which was essentially a double bottom, 84.01 and 85. And then our new resistance is up here at 116.75. We're looking for a higher low. It's a solid bottom fishing play where you put your stop loss below 84. It's a lot of risk, so your position size would definitely need to reflect that. And I'll talk about position size in just a moment. But if you're going to risk, it's a 13% break before that support would be lost. So if you were going to try and play off that support, you better have a small position because that's a ton of risk. Whereas the reward, if we're looking for a higher low to form from 91, and we would see a bounce and we're looking up for a lower high, perhaps in the 105 range, that is a 14% gain. So the bottom line is very high risk, high reward. We have a tightening range on the daily time frame trying to form. The 4-hour definitely looks a lot different than what those other names are doing as the correlations are not there. That's the most important resistance. Look at how many 4-hour candlesticks have rejected from the 104 area. 104, 103.90, 103.81, 103.90. So 104 is the most important short-term resistance here. We have a 4-hour bounce attempt, but anything under 104 is just a lower high. Bulls need to change the 4-hour trend to be looking for the daily chart to set a higher low and to continue to tighten. and watching BCH ABC, a much different perspective on the daily time frame. A weak bounce attempt with no support nearby if we break to lower lows. So the most important support is 95.50. We have not established a 4-hour higher low since that point. I'm looking at resistance of 110.90 and then 120. So a lot of work for the bulls to try and shift this momentum. On the daily chart, we're going to look for a lower high if the bulls do get any follow through, and that is going to be a potential bearish entry. Not sure about the ability to short BCH, ABC on different exchanges. I'm sure it's pretty limited, but again, on all of these names, shorts are just waiting for daily lower highs. And so if I were playing short, which I'm not, and people, wondering why, it's because there's no good exchanges in the US for you to put any kind of significant capital on for it to be trustworthy for you, allow you to short. So personally, I'm just trading way, way less in the cryptocurrency space. I can count on one hand the amount of trades I've taken in the last 2 or 3 months. Stocks have been great. There's been a ton of opportunity there the last 7 months where I shifted my focus. Pretty much April is the last time I was really focused on crypto, and that was my highest profitable month in the cryptocurrency space in 2018. And not surprisingly, it was my lowest profitable month in stocks. But ever since April, I've completely shifted towards stocks as I patiently wait for the longer term trends. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do a trade like I did in the last video where I hop in and out in 10 minutes and lock in some profit. But generally, I've just been very hands off, patiently waiting for those trend changes because, again, I know I keep saying it, but the trend will change on the daily and weekly. There is zero doubt of that in my mind. It's pretty much a fact at this point. And whether it's 30% off the bottom or not, I don't care, because when that weekly trend changes, in my opinion, the amount of upside, we don't need to nail the tops and the bottoms. We can wait for clear signals. We can wait for risk to be eliminated, and there'll still be plenty of gains to be had once those longer term trends change. So right now, if I were short, I would have covered my position once the bulls started showing up, and I'm just referring to Bitcoin for ease here. But once the bulls started to show up, maybe a break of 34.50 here, I would have exited short positions, which we're seeing. We're seeing people exit their short positions, and I would zoom out to the daily and say, all right, have your fun, bulls. I'm just going to wait for a daily lower high to re-enter my short again. So we have to be aware of that. It is still a daily downtrend, and that's currently what's going on. So for position sizing, so I made a very high risk trade in the last video that I talked about, where I went all in, and I used all of my funds that I have allocated to cryptocurrency to enter that bullish trade, and then I exited. And I did try to re-enter consolidation, which went well at first, and I'm trying to find where we are here. So it went well at first in terms of I got myself in a comfortable position. The bulls started to show back up. I did get stopped out on the hourly time frame. I will show you where I got stopped out when the hourly little uptrend was lost, but my position sizing was completely different. So here on the initial bull move, I went all in, which I haven't done in the cryptocurrency space in a long time, and I was very quick. I mean, when I'm saying quick, I'm saying I pressed the all-in button, market buy, and literally less than 20 seconds later, I started filling out my sell orders and started executing those sell orders on the way up. So I was in the trade for seconds before I started scaling out. And in terms of re-entering, I did re-enter looking for the hourly high or low, but at that point I was risking, I put in 20% of the position that I did initially. So the risk is so much less. I didn't want to give back all of my profits, and I did end up getting stopped out on this hourly support level breaking here because I went to bed and I said, all right, if we lose that level, I don't want to sit through a pullback back down towards the lows. So I ended up giving back 20% of the profit that I initially had entered. Had I used the same percentage or the same position size, I would have given back all of my gains. So positioning and position sizing is very important. And when we see shifts going on, for example, the daily time frame, if I see the daily trend shift, I can start to establish a swing position, but maybe only allocate a third of my capital towards that and then wait for the next 2/3 for a weekly trend change before I'm looking longer term for the bulls to show up for a sustained period of time. So position sizing is very important, and that helps you allocate risk and reward, and it can keep you from FOMO as well. If I'm feeling FOMO and don't want to miss out on a move, if I put in 20% of my capital, I'm making money on the way up, and it's, preventing me from having this urge to put all my capital in, and is this the bottom, and am I going to miss it? So play around with position sizing and realize the power of it when you are very confident and you're using full positions, or when you are less confident and using partial positions. So that's about that. Let's see, check in on Bitcoin one more time. Still all bulls in control. We're going to have to lose the 15-minute uptrend to see hourly consolidation. We're going to anticipate an hourly higher low to form, perhaps off the exponential supports. And again, 4-hour when we consolidate, we're going to look for a higher low there as well. So the bulls are in full control of the short-term action, and we're watching the daily exponential resistances over the next couple of days. So this weekend I've been diving into the financial world of just talking with friends and pointing out documentaries and movies to be watching, whether it's The Big Short or the documentaries about the financial crisis, or I just watched last night The China Hustle. That's another one to open your eyes to the game that the stock market is in the financial world. This morning I watched a video from Andreas talking about the banking cartel. So that's where my mind and headspace are. And it's important to not stay there for too long because you can get depressed pretty easily if that's all you are focused on. And we have the riots going on in France and watching how they're dealing with their political system. And, people on social media are posting all these memes and calls to action, say, look what France is doing. We need to be doing this. And it makes me a little bit depressed because I think about what would the U.S. be doing if what is happening in France were happening in the U.S. right now? And the answer is we would have militarized police forces with tanks in the streets. And I was thinking about reflecting, looking at the videos of France, which is great. I love that the people are, standing up for what they believe in and making a difference as they get the taxes as they're, getting the government to notice essentially by being out in the street. But when you look at the police force that they're dealing with there, it's not what would be going on in the U.S. And, I was looking at those protesters and saying to myself, nobody wearing those yellow shirts is having to think to themselves, I might die here right now. So it's a very, intense situation, but they're not against militarized police with, guns and tanks and all this equipment. So that made me a little depressed as well, just realizing that, if Americans were doing that out in the street, they would be getting crushed. And it's brought me back to the Occupy 2008 movement. So I attached some videos from Dallas at the end of the video here. And that is when we went to tell Chase what we thought about the 2008 financial crisis and their involvement in it. And some people ended up sitting in front of the doors. So yes, they are blocking the doors, which is why the police response is what it was. But just a little bit of an insight into that experience and just some overall broader reflection. So it's all very interesting. Things are going to get very interesting over the next couple of years. The S&P 500 is showing some significant weakness. I put out SPY videos pretty much every day. So if you're interested in what the broader market is doing, watch those SPY videos because we are at a pretty critical point right now for the S&P 500 where we have key support down at the low of the October dump, about to be tested, it looks like. And we closed at the low of the week last week. If we break 259.85 on SPY, that's the head and shoulders pattern that I've been pointing out as the potential of a monthly trend change ongoing here. And we're about to test the February dump low and the October dump low. If we lose that October dump low, we're going to start to see more fear. We're going to start to see headlines and talking heads talking about recession. And if we break that October low and break that February low, things are going to get pretty ugly pretty quick. So that's something we're keeping an eye on for the market as a whole. But through it all, the dollar is still just fine. So I understand the argument with Andreas and everybody where, it's just a matter of time before the dollar fails. But what I don't understand is the people that are trying to put a timeline on it. Because I personally know people that have positioned themselves for a collapse 7 years ago and they're still waiting. So yes, it's a house of cards and it's going to all collapse at some point, but that might be in 25 years. And we have to anticipate that we can't possibly try and time something like the dollar collapse. And the weekly time frame is still in an uptrend over the last year pretty much. So again, keeping a broader perspective on everything and watching it all. Gold's starting to see some life due to the market fears, but we're not seeing that correlation yet with anything to do with the market and Bitcoin at this point in terms of market fears leading to money going into these high-risk assets. So still keeping an eye out for it, always watching the correlations. The dollar, gold, the markets, and Bitcoin are the big four in terms of what I'm watching for a macroeconomic scale and how all of these assets are intermingling and interacting with each other. But as of right now, we're seeing extreme market weakness. Finally, gold starting to respond to that. The dollar is still doing its thing, not really anything significant going on with the dollar. I do believe we could lose this weekly uptrend soon with the dollar, which would help the gold bulls. But again, Bitcoin's almost in its own little world right now, not responding to these things, where we have the dollar is definitely seeing a reaction in gold and vice versa, and the market's definitely playing into that as well, and Bitcoin's off here on the side doing its own thing. So continuing to watch for any correlations or any kind of, signals that Bitcoin is getting thrown into the mix of interacting with these broader markets, but not at the moment. So we'll see if SPY gets this breakdown in the S&P 500, and we'll continue to watch the daily exponential resistances for Bitcoin and everybody else. A bit of a tangent here at the end. And I hope you all have a good weekend. We'll see you soon. Do good things.
Our street! Our street! Our city! Yeah! This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Silence! We will not be silenced! 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 We will not be silenced!
Yankee Oscar Uniform, November Tango Sierra.